Welcome to the briefing session of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. This briefing is for December 1, 2022. We have a number of items to go over, and I'll turn the meeting over to our Vice Chairman, Don Martin.
Thank you, Chairman Plyler. This is, as he said, we're going to brief items for December 1st, and we do have one discussion item, that actually was discussed at our last meeting last Thursday from the Forsyth Humane Society. And I'm going to turn it over to Dudley Watson and Damon Sanders Pratt to talk a little bit about where we are at this point.
All right. So we met in small groups. Most of the commissioners were able to meet with representatives from the Humane Society, and so they brought sort of an update from their perspective on what their financial request is, which that they have reduced that financial request, I think, with the expectation that that they will be able to achieve some additional donations from the community, and then kind of a lot of good information was shared. The upshot of that is our county staff and staff from the Humane Society are going to really bring a couple of we're going to work to try to take the request and really put it into sort of services, distinct services provided by the Humane Society there at the shelter, with the ability to look across those services to ascertain, okay, is this appropriately funded by taxpayers, or is this more appropriately funded, by a nonprofit, more of a nonprofit mission? And so we are going to do that and then bring some options. And so the basis for the discussion that we'll have, since we're not meeting next Thursday, I think it's Monday the 21st, the basis of the discussion will really be around, here's what the Humane Society's cost, across these different service areas is, and here's how, we might divvy those costs up in an effort to try to keep the contract going, because I think what we heard loud and clear, and I think Mr. Neff and Ms. Ram, who are here with Humane Society, both heard is I think everybody values this relationship, and so how can we keep it going, and understanding that it's challenging on both sides to try to do that. So
I thought it was a productive discussion today. From my personal, we're going to have to pay for it one way or the other, and I don't think they're being unreasonable. They're just being realistic. I hope we can get that taken care of as soon as possible, because the longer we wait, the longer the consequences of waiting stay with us.
We certainly need to make sure there's services in place on January 1st. So we'll be back with a discussion on, am I correct, the 21st? We'll be in a briefing session the 21st at 2 o'clock here. Mr. Neff and Ms. Ram are here if you've got any questions for them, and maybe I'd turn to Damon if I missed anything that.
No, you hit the broad points, all of them.
Okay. So that's where we are. We are still talking.
All righty, thank you. You can now give us we can go over the items to be briefed for the December 1st meeting.
Yes, as is our practice, with public hearings, we've gone ahead, we're still going to do both briefings, and so I'll turn it over to Chris Murphy. I believe he has 3 rezonings that you will be asked to consider on the December 1st. So Chris Murphy, do you want me to introduce them? I can, or you can. Why don't you do it?
I most certainly will. Thank you, Mr. County Manager. Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the County Commissioners. The first request, again, I do have 3. This is case F-1618, a request of Deepak Patel and Kripalu Abodes LLC to rezone a 1.21 acre property at the corner, the northwest corner of Kernersville Road and Hastings Hill Road from RS9 to NBS, or Neighborhood Business Special Use. This is the property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area map, just to the west of Kernersville and the Kernersville Activity Center there along Kernersville Road. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow, again on the corner of Hastings Hill and Kernersville Road. Same property highlighted in yellow on the county's aerial photography. Notice there is an existing structure on the site that will be removed. This is looking east on Kernersville Road. The subject property is to the left. You see the zoning sign there in the image. This is looking west along Kernersville Road. Again, the subject property is on the right. You see the zoning sign there. This is looking south on Hastings Hill Road. The subject property is on, it says on the right. I don't believe that's correct. If you're looking south on Hastings Hill Road, the subject property should be in the background. And this subject property looking north, Hastings Hill Road is on the right, so that's looking at the subject property. This is the area plan map. This is the Southeast Suburban Area Plan, which was adopted in 2016. You'll notice that the recommended land use is single-family residential, 0 to 8 units per acre. This is the proposed site plan that was submitted as part of F-1618. There will be no vehicular access along Kernersville Road. There will be a proposed vehicular access along Hastings Hill Road. The building is pulled up close to the street, and parking is located to the side of the rear. These are the proposed images, as well as there's a floor plan, but this is what the proposed building would look like. The use that's being proposed, there's only one use, and it's being proposed as a food or drug store.
Say that again, please.
Food or drug store, which essentially is a grocery store, a market of some sort, but would not be a convenience store.
Got it.
The proposed development could promote further commercial strip development along a largely residential section of the Kernersville Road corridor. The proposed development could and would likely attract customers from outside the neighborhood and primarily caters to motorists, significantly increasing traffic in the area. Given the lack of commercial zoning in the area, we did consult with the county attorney's office, and the proposed rezoning could likely be considered an illegal spot zone if challenged in court if this were to be approved. All this information was presented to the planning board. The planning board viewed the requested use of food or drug store as being needed in the area. So it was heard at their meeting in October. There were 2 speakers in opposition, and they were primarily concerned with traffic. Planning board did vote 6-1 to recommend approval of the request, although the project was viewed as inconsistent with the adopted plan. This was based on a perceived need for the community scale grocery store market in that area. The planning board also found that the plan meets UDO requirements. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Remind me again the number, acres,
1.21 or 1.12, I'm not sure. Back in the very beginning, 1.21.
Can you go back to the site picture?
This one? Or the actual photo of the site?
Yeah, the photo of the site. I'm sorry, the one that has the actual, I'm looking for what parking's set up and.
Plan. And if you can see my mouse, and I'm not sure whether you can, but this is Kernersville Road, this is Hastings Hill Road. The proposed driveway is located about to the furthest point to the northwest on the subject property, and then there's parking that's located to the side and rear of the proposed market, but the proposed market is pulled up to the corner and would only have landscaping between it and the road.
I guess it's impossible to do a traffic analysis, really. I mean, that's a.
Well, again, it's not impossible.
You can get today's existing traffic.
Well, the use, basically traffic impact analysis are based on the use and the projected traffic volumes of a projected use. Given the traffic, the trip generation rate of this proposal, it would not garner a requirement in the ordinance to have a traffic impact analysis. If you look at what the projected traffic volumes are for the use, there is adequate capacity along both Kernersville Road and Hastings Hill Road. That intersection does, as my understanding and experience, some delays at peak times of the day, but there's not a capacity issue on the roads. It's more of a peak demand type situation, but a traffic impact analysis is not required for this proposal.
Do you have any idea where the nearest food store is?
Probably, it's my understanding, I think it's located approximately a mile and a half to the northeast, and it would be it would be actually within Kernersville. Within Forsyth County's jurisdiction proper, there's probably not any within a couple miles. But I believe if you go into Kernersville, you have the area where the Lowe's is and like the Walmart and the Target. I believe that would be the closest area where there are any food stores.
Thank you.
Chris, can you go back to the slide that shows the yellow?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. In the purple over there, I believe that's a trailer facility, right? In the purple to the left of the proposed property.
When you say trailer, are you talking about a manufactured home park?
Yeah,
Hold on one. let me
within
go-
the purple. I believe that's the one I got called to go to one time.
Talking about this area?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. It's zoned RS9, and it looks like this would be what you're talking about there, and it looks
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
is single-family homes.
So it must be further down. The reason I have a question is that they called me one time. I drove out there and they had sewage coming right out of the ground that the owner had not taken care of. Maybe it's that spot next to it. I don't remember very clearly. I've been out there a couple times. And something about that corner, there was some mention about that corner property back then. Has there been something else?
This has only been single-family. It has and/or had a single-family home on it. I believe it may have been removed by now, but this has always been single-family.
Okay. I must have it confused. I'll go drive it again and see. Thanks.
You could be thinking about the corner of Hastings Hill and perhaps Union Cross.
I don't think, no, that's too far in. This was
Okay.
Guilford up there in the red.
No, that's the activity center in Kernersville. That's commercial zoning in Kernersville.
I'm not far enough out on this one.
Okay.
Must not be that far out.
So scale-wise, from that spot to the red to that Kernersville activity area, what are you looking at? On Kernersville Road going in there, is that about a mile and a half? Is that the mile and a half idea that you're saying to get into a grocery store?
To get to the edge, it's probably about a half mile to probably get to the closest food store in there. I think I think you've got Lowe's, Home Improvement. I'm not sure exactly how far you have to get into that red area, but it's I would say it's probably at least a mile to get to it.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd be happy to weigh in on the spot zoning opinion. Fred Johnson, my office, prepared that. This property, the area plan specifically says it should not be rezoned for non-residential. I believe the fear is for commercial creep coming from the red area. I know Harmon Creek Road very well. That's where the Lowe's is, because we had a number of appeals about that. But this is a small plot of land which is residential, surrounded by residential property. So there is some likelihood that if it were challenged, a rezoning could be overturned as a spot zoning.
Were there folks there from the community to speak in opposition?
Yes, and I say that because the next case I'm getting ready to go over, I believe the same two people spoke for both cases. I believe I know one person did speak on both cases, and she decided to speak on this one whenever she showed up for the other one. But yeah, there were two folks that spoke on this, and again, their concerns were traffic related.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not, I can move on to the next item.
Go ahead.
Stop sharing that one and start sharing the next one. Okay. This case is F-1620. It's the second case on the agenda for December 1st. This is a request of P&P of Ashboro LLC to rezone 25.8 acres on the south side of Hastings Hill Road, west of Watermill Road, from RS9 to RM8S. Again, this is where the subject property is shown on Legacy's Growth Management Area Plan. This is located within the GMA3 area. Again, just west of the Activity Center in Kernersville and located directly adjacent to the Beltway. This is the subject property shown in yellow. There's a single-family neighborhood located to the east and again and to the south, and then there is the Beltway right-of-way located to the west and Hastings Hill Road right-of-way to the north. Subject property shown on the countywide aerial photos. The area plan map, again, this is the Southeast Suburban Area Plan update adopted in 2016, which recommends single-family residential zoning at 0 to 8 units per acre. This is looking east on Hastings Hill Road. The subject property is on the right, and the single-family neighborhood is a little further to the right off of this image. This is looking west on Hastings Hill Road. The subject property is on the left. That is the bridge, that is the overpass that is passing over the Beltway. This is looking south along the northern Beltway. Subject property is on the left of this image. This is the subject property from Hastings Hill Road. And this also is the subject, this is just an image of the subject property on the site. I believe this is looking towards the single-family residential neighborhood further to the east with existing tree vegetation to remain. Again, the neighboring subdivision. This is the site plan. I did include the image as submitted is oriented with the north to the left of your screen. So I did provide an inset which shows the actual orientation of the project on the ground, but you'll notice this is a mix of 4, 5, 6, and 7 unit townhome buildings, a single way in and out. There is no opportunity for interconnectivity. You have properties to the both the west and the south do not have any substreets to connect into. And of course, you have the Beltway to the west and Hastings Hill Road along the north. So there are no opportunities for interconnectivity. This is what the proposed renderings of the townhomes would look like. The development has a proposed density of 3.88 units per acre, which is similar to the neighboring development to the east of single-family homes and their density. The request will promote a mix of housing types, providing more housing choices for the population. Proposed traffic impact of townhomes and the number of townhomes proposed would actually be less than what's allowed under the existing single-family zoning. Townhomes have a trip generation rate that is substantially less by about a third or more for townhomes and single-family homes. And also the proposal, what they have come up with is limited to no more than 100 units. And it's tied to the site plan, and that number of units would only generate 581 trips per day. The townhomes will act as an appropriate transition between the Beltway and the single-family neighborhood located further to the east. This was heard by the Planning Board at their October 13th, 2022 public hearing. Again, there were 2 speakers in opposition, and they were primarily concerned with traffic and environmental issues, and I think those environmental issues dealt with stormwater, loss of trees on the subject property, not any concerns with actual environmental contamination or anything such as that. After hearing those concerns and having the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and the site plan does meet UDO requirements. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. All right, hearing none, I'll move to the third item. And I'm not sure, Commissioner Martin, how close you have studied this one, but this one should look familiar to the commissioners. And this was actually a point of concern whenever this originally went through for a rezoning back about a year ago. This is the former 67 Motors site located along Renolder Road. And this is a site plan amendment to amend the approved plan to move the storage services retail building slightly to the east and to move the access point slightly to the east. This is the one where there was a perceived site distance issue on the approved or on the proposed plan at the time. It did meet the requirements of the ordinance and NCDOT's mandate, but whenever they actually got out into the field, they didn't like their site distance, so they decided to move their entrance.
I can understand that.
Yeah, so this is the subject property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan. It's located within the Future Growth Area GMA4, but it's right on the edge of such. Again, this is adjacent to the Beltway, an unconstructed portion of the Beltway at this point. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. Again, already zoned GIS based on the commissioner's actions back last spring. I believe it was last spring. This is the subject property shown countywide aerial photo. This is the site plan. This is the site highlighted from the North Suburban Area Plan update adopted by the commissioners back in 2014. It recognizes the existing industrial nature out there and recommends that this be zoned for industrial purposes. And I'm not sure. There we go. This is looking east on Renolder Road. The site is on the left. This is looking west on Renolder Road. The site is on the right. You see the rezoning sign there. This is actually looking at the subject property, 67 Motors. This is looking across the street to Hoosier Drive. This is the old site plan that was approved by the commissioners, again, back either late last fall, early last spring. Everything was kind of clustered further to the western edge of the proposed site. This is what is proposed today. They have moved their storage buildings more central to the site. They have relocated their entrance to have better site distance and also to align that with an existing access easement that goes to a active farm to the northeast. In summary, the proposed site access point today is in a better location than what was originally proposed and approved. No change in use or traffic from the original zoning case is proposed. The site is recommended for industrial use and development by the North Suburban Area Plan, and of course was previously approved by the commissioners as such. This was heard by the Planning Board at their October 13th, 2022 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the request to the commissioners, and the site plan does meet UDO requirements. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions, or I can go sit down.
That is a great improvement in terms of location.
I thought you would like that.
There's an elevation issue also on that creates the site distance issues. And so that actually puts it at the top of the hill instead of
Halfway down.
a third of the way down, which is a whole lot better. The site's become fairly, since that was approved and sold, as you can tell from those pictures, the site is becoming overgrown. So I hope that can kind of
Hopefully this will put it back in use, because I'm sure what happened is once they started looking at it a little closer and started doing their engineering drawings for the construction, they probably discovered they had a true issue, and I think that's what brought them back to the drawing board. So hopefully they're getting ready to do something out there.
That's good. Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me hit stop presenting.
Okay. You have two public hearings for expenditures for economic development projects on this agenda, and I'll turn it over to Kyle Haney to provide an update on these.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So the first one is actually one that we briefed on 2 weeks ago, expected to have at the actual meeting today. The company requested that we move it back one agenda, so that it'll be on the December 1st agenda. Once again, it's confidential, but it is incentives for a company to encourage them to locate a manufacturing facility for medical products with a proposed capital investment of $20,300,000 in building and machinery and equipment, and the creation of 79 new full-time jobs with an average wage of $49,000 per year. And then on December 1st meeting, we'll give a full presentation of the company's information. The second one is another economic development project, and this one is a company looking to expand manufacturing facilities here, as well as we would apply, authorizing us to apply for state funds as well. The capital investment on this one is $5,820,000 in building machinery and equipment, and that would be 180 new full-time jobs with an average wage of $33,150. One thing of note on this one is that this would go over a 7-year period instead of a 5. I'll give the full briefing on this company as well on the 1st of December.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. All right, I'll briefly run through what we're currently working on that will be in front of you, and we will go into detail not next Thursday, but a week from next Monday. We're working on a resolution that's an ARPA-related resolution regarding some additional premium pay that actually took some of the dollars from the previous round and then added some dollars into it. Oh, actually did not. It's just basically the dollars from the previous round that would be appropriated into this. Remind me, please.
And there was some ARPA round 2 as well. There was some from the previous round and then a little bit from ARPA round 2.
That's right, okay. And so we will dive into that, and we'll actually be able to show you the structure of how we're using these really as some retention incentives, basically, is the thought there. Got minutes. We've got some budget ordinance amendment, or some budget and finance matters. You've got an amendment to the fiscal year budget for PAYGO, and so one of our goals as we kind of close out the year's business is we're going to bring you the PAYGO projects that were identified in the budget ordinance, and so we can have some conversations about that, but we'll dive into that. Simultaneously, our CFO, Terry, is working on trying to finalize what that number is, and so we'll put that into the equation as well to be able to have that conversation. The way you structured it in the budget ordinance amendment really provides that all the dollars will their home will be identified, and so because you took essentially the excess dollars and put them into an inflation category, which is important given what we're seeing with capital projects. You've got a prior year encumbrance housekeeping matter that's out there. During the budget, the board created a communications department, and so we're actually going to do the budget ordinance amendment to put those dollars. It was housed kind of in the county commissioner's, county manager budget, and we're going to push this out into a separate departmental budget. And then we've got some additional dollars from Health and Human Services. We've got some additional dollars from we've got an ARPA-funded project related to the single-family home urgent repair funding. You basically filled in a period where there was not, those grant revenues were not available, and we'll fill that in with ARPA dollars. In contractual matters, we've got several of those items, and some of these are really, really exciting. One of those is a design-build agreement to include design and pre-construction services for the Forsyth County Agricultural Park, which is that facility off of Doral Drive. We will get started with that. We will actually award a contract with Barr Construction Company, if y'all deem appropriate, as design builder for the Blues Lake Park project. So that project has been competitively bid. We will bring the details of that to you with a design build contract. And I believe there are some budget, we're applying some of the inflation dollars to this project. So there'll be some budget implications as well. When you funded the ARPA JIT team, the Sheriff's Department's asking, they want to also outfit those folks with TASER equipment, and so that equipment is coming to you as a sole source award. And then you've got some kind of the continuing saga of the school nurse staffing. You've got 2 contracts related to school nurse staffing, one to sort of bridge you over into another contract because we competitively bid those, and so we continue to struggle with that. You've got some appointments that are pretty straightforward, some refunds, and then you've got a couple of reports. You've got an annual pay plan report and an opioid settlement report. The pay plan based on what we have been working, we've been working to try to finalize the recommendations from Lockton. We've got it in here as a report, but there's a possibility there may be some other board action that's needed that we would need to put in front of you as well. And so, a big meeting to hopefully close out, kind of close out some things that this board's been working on for the last 8, 4, 10, 12 years, so a long time. So anyway, I think that's it.
You mean we've gone through the entire thing already?
We made it through it. Did I miss anything, Chantel or Damon? Okay, for some reason I got this nagging feeling that I did, but
Commissioner Kaplan's also already moving to adjourn, which I will second the motion, but I would like to take a point of personal privilege for just a moment, if that's all right. We have in the room today a Kernersville resident, actually Blues Creek, Terry Teresa Elizabeth Morazak, who wanted to be on this board, and she did not make it through the primary at the election in past Tuesday. And I think she did a good job, but the other reason I wanted to talk for a moment is John Wolf, who is the attorney for the Kernersville Board of Aldermen and a longtime resident of Kernersville, and John Owensby, who is the publisher of the Kernersville News for ever since I can remember. Both passed away, and John's funeral is this coming Saturday at Kernersville Moravian Church, and John Owensby's funeral is at Main Street United Methodist Church the following Tuesday. Those two gentlemen have been long public servants and staff members, and their families are grieving right now, and I just wanted to make that conversation, if it was all right. Now, we have a motion from Commissioner Kaplan. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.